Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are Team Dreamscape. Today we have gathered here to celebrate World Meteorological Day.
For those of you who don't know what it means, it is a day to highlight the importance of the role that people and their behavior plays in protecting the Earth's atmosphere. Before we start, I want you to imagine you are a sea animal. Imagine living under the sea, which is so polluted that it's like living in hell. Today, we all are going to take you to the journey of truth under the sea through a story of Kairos and his fellow mates. The story headline is Under the Sea. Swept in with the rest, you say.
The male hippocamus, T.S., muttered, his gaze fixated on the dead shark. Its usual white pallor paler than normal. Tutting, T.S. turned away after ordering the squids to carry the body back to Kyrus's castle. It was definitely going to be a tough day, especially since it was King's favorite cousin who had died during the patrol. Ridiculous! It was absolutely ridiculous how the plastic mountains had begun to grow. He'd had more than a dozen schools of fishers asking him for an update on the migration routes since he had woken up. What's with the growing pile of waste the godforsaken Homo sapiens dumped in the water bodies? It was becoming increasingly difficult for most of his kin to survive. He cursed under his breath as he entered Kyrus, the king's castle. Just as he was crossing the archway leading to Kyrus's chamber, an urchin whizzed past him.
Look where you going.
Sir, I've got news.
What is it? If it's one of your mischief again, I will have you know that the
No. This is indeed news. A school arrived from south earlier. They have been migrating. I have come across more low oxygen zone. What are they called?
hypoxic zone.
Yes, that's it. They are a more hypoxic zone than ever now. And most of our kin have died. It's no more than a dead stretch of water.
Have they said how many?
They heard from a group of crabs that it's close to 500 now. Almost the size of one of those big lands, United Kingdom, as the sapiens called it.
Nodding, T.S. thanked the urchin before making his way to Kyrus's chamber. The mighty white shark was drifting about. His mind was lost in deep thoughts. Kyrus has ruled the ocean for a great many years. On the matters of ocean diplomacy, there was no one better than him. But he could do little when it comes to humans. Ordering his army to harm the expeditions hadn't been so fruitful, especially since none preferred human meat.
Your Majesty.
Dears, word has reached of my cousin's fall. I can't imagine how we will survive at this rate.
The concerned sapiens predict that more than half of the species in our domain are to disappear in 100 years.
Don't remind me of that. Those wretched turtles send nothing but bad news back from dry lands. You have sent scouts to remove the waste, I presume.
Yes, but news has arrived from the South Sea which has interfered with the oxygen level, and now there are more hypoxic zones than ever before. Many schools have reported that there is nothing left to salvage.
It's painful to fathom that we ocean dwellers have to pay for other sins. Can you imagine? It's all going to disappear someday. Makes me almost guilty enough to stop having my daily hunt.
But life must go on, Your Majesty. We cannot alter our habits so drastically that we no longer remain who we were supposed to be.
T.S. didn't mention what he'd learned earlier that very day, the news of impact of the alarming rise in temperature. While it was easy for the marine fauna to migrate, same could not be said for the majestic coral reefs and the rest of the sea flora, especially with the interruption of the symbiotic relationship between the corals and the respective unicellular algae. The corals have no option but to bleach and perish. Kyrus started to speak, but the word never reached T.S. because at that moment, the same urchin that interrupted him earlier hurtled into Kyrus's chamber.
Oil spills. There have been oil spills north of here, a few miles away.
What of the sea otters and the fish in that area? Have they been evacuated?
Most have, but Your Majesty, a lot of them have ingested the oil.
Damn it, oil ingestion! It's going to affect reproduction and what not.
especially the sea otters. Winter is not far, and if they lose their fur because of the oil spills, it drastically affects their number.
I am done staying quiet. We'll wait for them in a safer location, away from the oil spills. Then we attack, bring in the best crew, Tears.
He could do nothing more than just to follow his king's order. Quick as a flash, Tears hurried over to gild housing Kyrus' best men. Within moments, a group of strong and able white sharks shot out, heading over to the location identified by the Scots. As Tears returned back to the castle, his king met him halfway.
Your Majesty, you are going as well?
Yes,
There were no stopping that rage that filled his voice and coated his features. Tears wanted to argue, to hold the Majesty back from what could be a bloodbath that would end in more losers on their side rather than the Sapiens. But Kyrus would turn a deaf ear no matter how valid Tears' argument would be. So instead, Tears followed his kings upward and towards the great shadows of the boat crafted by the Sapiens who would inevitably lead all the domains on the world to doom.